Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. I am your host, Barry McDonald, and today I am joined by Michael Brown, co-founder of Bright Line. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to kick things off with a brief overview of what your company does and what you do?
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me on today, Barrett. I'm Mike Brown, one of the co-founders of Bright Line CPA. We're an all virtual accounting firm based here in Canada. Most of the team is in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So we provide full service accounting services to our clients who are mostly in Atlantic Canada, but we also have clients who are in Ontario and further west of that as well. So we do everything from your bookkeeping to your taxes, but we try to approach it in a different manner. So we're also doing a lot of business advisory type services and some tech advisory stuff as well.
That's awesome. Sounds like a good complete package. So,
Mhm.
what would you say when we were talking offline? You said it's been just over 2 years that you guys have been in operation. What would
Yep.
you say you've discovered are some of the common misconceptions about running a business, and how do you address them, especially where you're experiencing a lot of different business owners in your accounting world?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's nice because what I've learned through working with all these business owners is that there's a lot of similarities in business, regardless of what type of business you're running or what industry you're working in. And so there's a lot of the same misconceptions for business just in general, not just pertaining to our accounting firm or anything like that. I'd say probably the thing I would focus on there is um, as a business owner, you don't know everything, and you're also not the best person to do everything. I feel like a lot of people really struggle with that concept. Like as the owner, they feel like they're kind of the last stop for a lot of problems or a lot of questions from either their customers or their team. And that just, it's not the case. Like if you're building your business so that you're supposed to know everything or do everything in the best way, it's going to be a very hectic time for you. So that's one of the main misconceptions I would say, and how we address those. Um, I'm very intentional about in front of my clients. I want to establish my team members as people who can do stuff and can do it better than me in some cases. And I think that's really important. So that it hypes up your team and it makes them feel valued as well. And your clients get a lot of good interactions with the team, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say have been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began in business?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest one is that like hiring and managing people is really hard. It's something that people don't really understand the gravity of until they're kind of thrown in it. So, in talking to my clients, what typically happens is they're absolutely maxed out and they have no personal life, and money is tight, even though it's just them kind of grinding through work, and they need to bring somebody on, and they're like, I need a body with 2 feet and a heartbeat, and so they bring somebody on and they have no idea what is important for them in a team member. They have no idea how they're going to train this person. They have no idea as to what this person is actually going to do. They just know they need somebody to help them. And so I'd say my biggest learning as an employer is you need to be really intentional about who you bring on the team and how you bring them onto the team, because their experience is just as important as your experience in working with them. So
Yeah.
uh, one of the things that we've done recently is put a lot of thought into like our values as a company and how we're hoping to accomplish stuff in our client experience. And a lot of those things will inform how we interview for staff and how we bring staff onto the team. And then just, building out with people who are better than us in this area, but building out a staff onboarding process and making sure they're geared up to actually do the work once they're brought on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an interesting way of approaching it. So when you talk about hiring staff, what qualities do you look for in your employees, and how do you foster a positive and productive work environment, especially where everyone's remotely based?
Yeah, so I'd say like hiring for a remote team is super difficult. And you really need to have, like I said, you really need to have your values and what you're looking for very specifically laid out. Otherwise, you're not going to have a good time when you're going through the hiring process. For context, I used to work at a firm where in my role, I was responsible for hiring for a number of years, and that was all very in person. So I'd never done remote hiring until I started Bright Line a couple of years ago. And I thought, well, it's going to be the same, right? Uh, but it turned out to not be that way. So it was an interesting learning curve for sure. some of the qualities that I look for, I think a lot of people, when they think of accountants, they think of number crunchers. And so you're looking for somebody like with the accounting education, with attention to detail, like somebody who is just really focused on grinding out numbers. Some people might think of the little accountant with the green visor sitting in the background with an
Yeah.
abacus or a tape machine or something like that. But I think that more and more you'll find the accounting profession is evolving, and it's evolving in a way that uh, clients are now leaning on their accountants for more than just like, give me my tax return or give me my financial statements. Uh,
Right.
Sometimes you're a business therapist, sometimes you're a coach, sometimes, you're talking to them about general business strategy or something like that. And so you need to bring people onto the team who can fit into that role as well. So we look for we look for attention to detail, and we look for people with some accounting either experience or the educational background. But more and more, we're looking for really good communicators and people who are comfortable talking with other people and interacting with other people. We're also looking for people who are very tech savvy, because one of the pillars of how we deliver our service is we like to rely on tech and automation where we can,
Right.
and use that to help enhance the human connection that we have with our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very good way of approaching things, and it echoes through a bunch of the different interviews that we've had. So that's tremendous that you guys are headed in the same direction. So when you talk about balancing your personal and your work life and the demands of running a business, how do you kind of master that?
I'm not going to profess to have mastered that. And I think any business owner that says they have, I'd love to have a chat with them. So if you can hook me up, that'd be great. But I think that's one of the hardest things about running a business, is that you can very quickly become your business, and it can be all consuming. And you have to be really strategic and really intentional about how you set the boundaries and how you delineate between the two aspects of your life. um, One of the things that I've found to be really important is setting boundaries with your team and with your clients. And that doesn't mean like, being really rude to them or not talking to them or something like that. Like, I think it can be done in a really professional and respectable way, so that, for example, one of the things that we're working on right now is we've hired somebody from a sales and tech background to help us with a formal sales process in the firm, but also doing some of our like documenting and formalizing some of our other
Right.
processes. And one of those is client onboarding, which is, I would say, having worked in other accounting firms in the past, like that, not not having a good onboarding process is how client relationships crumble. And so one of the things that we're trying to do in our onboarding process is define how this relationship is going to work. And we define that up front, and we over communicate it, or we're going to start over communicating it, so that people
Right.
are aware of the boundaries, right? So, these are the times when you can talk to us. Our team have personal lives, so we don't want you encroaching on that. We think everybody should be able to have their personal life as well.
Absolutely.
So doing that is super important, and doing that with your team as well. So, I think that it's important that as a business owner, if you need to take some time, you need to disconnect from your business, and that means not being available for your team. So I did something almost unthinkable 2 months ago. I went on vacation to Portugal. And
Yeah.
I told my team, like, I'm in Portugal, I'll be drinking wine. Please don't contact me. See you when I get back. And it was great. Everybody respected that. And it also sets the expectation that they're allowed to do that as well, and that you
Absolutely.
don't expect them to be on the clock when they should be on vacation.
Yeah, and as long as you have systems and the right people in place, then there's no reason not to walk away for periods of time, right?
Oh,
So
and that's exactly it. And, for anybody listening that's like, oh, that's really harsh. My business partner was still around too, so she was able to help them out. I didn't just leave them high and dry.
yeah, yeah, like leaving a puppy in a kennel for a long period of time. It wasn't that scenario. Everyone knows how to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. They had some
Absolutely.
support.
Yeah, for sure. So, what would you attribute your growth to at your firm?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I'm really lucky to have found myself in an industry where you can basically turn the tap on and off on growth whenever you want. I think that as the industry's evolved, like I was saying, there's just like so many types of work and so many clients that are looking for different types of work that as an accountant, you can put your hand up and say, I'm an accountant, I'm open for work, and you the work just comes to you, right?
Absolutely.
So I think we're lucky in that sense. Obviously, that's a double-edged sword to a degree, but specifically for our firm, I think one of the things we can attribute our growth to is our focus on the client experience. So
Yeah.
I think if to anybody listening, I'm assuming a lot of the people tuning in are business owners, and every business owner has probably worked with an accountant in the past and understands the frustrations with that relationship. And certainly there's frustrations from the other side as well. And a lot of it is just because they're operating in this broken model that doesn't really focus on the client experience. And so one of the things we like to do is as we're making decisions within the firm, ask either how it enhances our relationships with our clients or how does it impact the client experience. And that can be stuff that's really trivial to stuff that obviously is a lot more intense, like building out a tech stack or the actual like steps in the service delivery process. We always ask how that impacts the client experience. So
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the reasons for our growth. And I think the other thing is knowing that you can't do anything alone. So we've spent a lot of time developing a referral network and a community of other accountants who have all been a very crucial part of how we've grown the firm.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, seeking feedback and being receptive to it is one of the key cogs in growth, because you got to continually improve. So that's a good
Yeah.
approach to everything. So
Well,
when you
and
think
sorry
back, go
to
ahead.
interrupt you there. Yeah, but I was just going to tie that back to what I was saying on like the common misconceptions about running a business. Like you can't know everything and you're not the best person for everything. And so, one of the things you can do to address that misconception is to build your community, and do it as early as you can. Like find those people who are better at things than you, and they don't have to be employees or like paid subcontractors or anything, but in my world, a lot of those people are other accounting firm owners, and people might think that we're competition. But like I said, there's so much work out there that you have to lean on each other. Otherwise, nobody's going to get anything done. So like find that community and really, lean on them as much as you can, and be leaned on by them too. And that's, the only way you can kind of move forward.
Absolutely. So when you think back to a time 3, 4 years ago before you started in business and knowing what you know now, what would you do all over again or differently if you had to start again?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think there's I don't want to say everything, but a substantial amount of things we would probably do different. I describe starting a business as basically just a comedy of errors. Nobody really knows the 100% right answer, and something that's the right answer for somebody else is not the right answer for you. So you really just have to try stuff and see what sticks, and make sure you're trying things in a way that if it does go sideways, it doesn't make things implode in a critical way. So um, you know I think if looking back, if I was to pinpoint like maybe one thing that I would do differently, um, I would put a lot more emphasis on the fluffy stuff.
Okay.
As an accountant, especially, like you come up in this world of like hard facts and logic and data, and running a business is about what's in the bank account and how profitability is doing and your financial health. But the fluffy stuff is just as important. And for us, we've gone through an exercise recently where we've had to really think about why we're doing what we're doing and how we want to do it and who we're doing it for. And that's resulted in us, clearly defining what our goals are as a company, what our mission is, what our values are. And those things will trickle through your entire organization. And if you don't have them, you're just setting yourself up to fail. So it goes back to hiring, it goes back to service delivery, it goes back to who you're actually looking to bring on as a customer or a client. And it was funny because we worked with an HR subcontractor from very early on who tried to get us to go through this exercise, and we kind of half-assed it and thought, that's not important. We're here to make money.
Right.
So we did that, and then we just kind of forgot about all of those things we had documented. But then we were preparing for, we do quarterly town halls with our staff where we just talk about what's going on in the firm and how we're progressing and changing. And for our first town hall, we were putting together a list of all the big changes we had gone through, because last year was a huge change year for us. And it was really refreshing because as we were putting those on paper or into a slide deck, I guess, they were all tying back really nicely to those values and that mission we had kind of set up. So we realized how important it was and how much, that was actually defining our direction and how we were doing things. So yeah, if I had to do one thing, one thing differently, it would be to do that from the start and really stick to it, because it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing where you're headed is 90% of the journey sometimes, right? So
Yeah, and then also like knowing where you're headed, and as you're getting there, document everything. Because one of the things we've noticed is, like, as we brought staff on, it's super important to have all your process documented, or it's going to be a struggle for you and a struggle for them to be able to get the team operating at like peak efficiency. So yeah,
absolutely. So
document
Michael,
everything.
as we're wrapping up here, any last minute pieces of advice for anyone who's watching this thinking about going into business for themselves?
Oh yeah, that's great. I mean, as far as advice goes, really think about why it is that you want to make that decision. I feel like a lot of people hop into the world of business ownership from employment because they're frustrated with their current circumstance. They're frustrated by, a bad boss or a bad working environment, or maybe they just don't connect with the work that they're doing like they used to, and so they think, I'll go out on my own and that'll solve all the problems. But
Right.
it's not like business ownership is immediate financial freedom or immediate work-life balance or anything like that. So just like really think about why you want to do what you're doing, and make sure that you're really passionate about it too, because if you're not, you'll quickly find you've created a job for yourself, with all the worst parts of having a job and all the worst parts of owning a business, and not many of the perks. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind before you make that leap.
Absolutely. Well, that's some good sound sign off advice. So thank you so much for your time today, Michael. It was great meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey. To everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Thanks so much, Barrett.